Good afternoon and welcome to Juniper's Top 10 Tech Predictions for 2019 webinar. I'm Nitin, the Head of Research at Juniper Research. With me today are Principal Analyst Elson Sutanto and Senior Analyst Sam Barker. Before we talk you through our top 10 technology predictions for 2019, we will be assessing the results of some of the predictions that we made for 2018. The webinar then will conclude with a Q&A session. To begin with, a brief introduction to Juniper Research and our top 10 tech predictions. Juniper specializes in identifying and appraising new high-growth market sectors within the digital ecosystem. We provide market research and content across 50 technology markets. Now, these research reports and research areas forms the basis on which our expert analysts make these predictions. Now, for the past 9 years, we have been bringing out a set of end-of-year predictions in which we look at the key technologies, devices, and services that we expect to have a disruptive impact in the next year. We look at what legislative changes are planned, future products in development, and which technologies are anticipated to be front and center at key industry events and showcases like CES and Mobile World Congress. We also speak to industry movers and shakers across a wide variety of verticals to discuss their opinions on any upcoming announcements or expected developments over the coming year. Our analyst team then whittles down a long list of possibles into a shorter list of probables, which are then ranked on their likely overall impact in 2019 to give us our set of top 10 predictions for the next 12 months. Now, for this webinar, we've put together a couple of slides on each of the trends. For each trend, we'll be exploring 4 key aspects. What is the opportunity? Why 2019? Who will benefit? And lastly, what do we predict will happen? And where relevant, we have also included the titles of existing Juniper Research reports in the area in question on the second of the 2 slides per topic area. So just click on the links and feel free to download those reports. When my colleagues and I have run through the list in reverse order, we will be answering a few of your questions today. You can send your questions to us while the webinar is in progress. Please use the chat box to the right to type your questions and then send it to us. Any questions we are unable to answer will be addressed via email after the webinar. So we'll be in touch straight after the webinar. Now, before we go through this year's predictions, I would like to take a look through a few of our predictions for 2018. In all cases, we believe our predictions hit the mark, although in some instances the scale of the activity was well noteworthy. Firstly, we predicted that OTT players like Amazon and Facebook would lead bids for major sporting rights in 2018. Indeed, in June 2018, Amazon announced that they had acquired the rights to live stream 20 Premier League games in the UK in a 3-year agreement beginning next year. Now, further to this, Facebook acquired the overseas right for the league in the Asia Pac region, which was closely followed by the acquisition to show Spanish football league La Liga in India. There were also several other technologies that certainly began to gain some momentum in 2019. For example, AI and blockchain are certainly generating more interest in the fintech sector. Meanwhile, there has been considerable growth in the use of personal investment-based apps, such as Moneybox and Wealthfront over 2018. So, what does next year hold in store? To begin with, I would like to introduce my colleague Elson Sutanto, who will lead you in with number 10, chatbots to play a central role in insurance claims process.
Thank you, Nitin. Yes, so we can see from our analysis that chatbots are becoming increasingly influential in day-to-day life, having been developed to assist a range of industries, from simple banking transactions to retail customer service inquiries. Chatbots aid insurance firms and the finance industry to offer personalized answers, to give greater automation during the claims process, and help reduce response times. AI and machine learning enable the insurance industry to deliver high-quality levels of customer satisfaction and engagement, as well as sell better tailored products to consumers. So we can see here from our research that the cost saved by chatbots compared to implementing an insurance agent operation is the highest out of all chatbot verticals. However, one main overarching issue when trying to implement chatbot technology is the highly stringent regulations of the insurance space. This slows down chatbot implementation as a case-to-case regulatory screening of products needs to be carried out before application of any insurance bots. But for 2019, we believe this is the year where chatbots will come of age in the insurance industry. Why is this so? For a number of reasons. First, the insurance claims process is particularly vulnerable to disruption. It's a process that requires significant amounts of time and manual effort to resolve. Chatbot technology allows for a significant reduction in response times to insurance claims. Secondly, the insurance industry is very data-centric. It holds large and significant sums of information, which present a strong use case for the efficiently programmed bots to identify trends and conduct repeated actions when presented with certain keywords, questions, or phrases. Chatbots also deliver personalized responses to common customer insurance claims made via email or telephone. This is all done in real time based on algorithms, allowing greater automation throughout the processing of claims. Chatbots have also been identified by the insurance industry as useful in helping to deliver high quality levels of customer engagement and satisfaction in real time with customers processing their insurance claims. Already we've seen leading peer-to-peer insurtech startup Lemonade leverage chatbots to help with the managing of account openings in claims since its launch in 2017. And already in just 1 year of being in operation, insurtech has reached a user base of 70,000. So chatbots have helped it to cut down lengthy paperwork, to cut down greater numbers of unpleased customers who had to previously wait months before having their insurance claims investigated. So before 2018, we saw that insurers dabbled in chatbots, but never really wholeheartedly fully adopted them into their operations. Their confidence was not so fully established in its functionality as yet. So overall, who is going to benefit? Really, it's consumers and insurers. For consumers, as we've highlighted, queries and claims will be responded to appropriately in real time to help reduce churn for these companies. Users benefit as well as the chatbots help them to select the right product, and this in turn helps increase customer loyalty. Over time, as consumer trust increases, the proactive role of the financial chatbot will also deepen, whereby bots can help to switch automatically best value products, whether that be in financial or other services such as utilities. Finally, Juniper predicts that with the rise of insurance cloud platforms, further deployments incorporating chatbots will be made in the insurance industry. Our most recent research report on chatbots, which you can view, highlights that the cost savings that chatbots implementation could deliver within the insurance industry could be to around $19 million US, depending on chatbot abilities to automate a set proportion of requests. Please do read more about it in the scenarios in our report. And now I'll hand over to Sam Barker.
Thank you, Elson. So at number 9, we have loot boxes to be banned across Europe and North America. Found in video games, loot boxes are in-game packs that are often gifted to players as a result of completing in-game tasks and achievement. Increasingly, these are being made available to purchase with real-world currency, and they're often described as a pay-to-win system. From there, it's evolved into the ability to purchase bundles of random items or perks. As this practice involves a degree of luck, cases are already being made that these loot boxes constitute a form of gambling, and responses from public bodies are going to be needed to regulate this in 2019. Indeed, notable action has already been taken in the Netherlands and Belgium. Action has already been taken against games publisher EA Sports regarding their FIFA titles. In this game, loot boxes are a very prevalent feature, which we have now shown on the right. So in 2019, we are anticipating that these regulatory bodies will introduce legislation in regards to loot boxes. This is going to involve ensuring that these loot boxes are classified as a form of gambling. Therefore, these loot boxes will fall under the existing gambling laws in the countries. So the most pressing issue that these lawmakers are facing is the ability for these services to be accessed by people who be considered minors. Therefore, in 2019, this is why we believe that immediate action must be taken. mitigating any risk of exposing gambling activities to young people is obviously very essential. So in turn, this is going to leave game publishers with the task of developing and distributing game updates that are going to remove this functionality with an immediate effect to comply with this legislation. So who will benefit? So obviously the immediate benefactors of any potential legislation will be those young users who could be susceptible to developing addictions to gambling in the future. However, any legislation is going to create a considerable amount of backlash from these games publishers, and they must be prepared to deal with any scrutiny. Owing to the inability of these games to confirm the age of the user, the pressure to correct this situation, most notably in the short term, is already increasing. So as a result, we believe that banning their use entirely is going to be the most probable course of action, and something that we anticipate will occur in the near future in 2019. However, in the long run, there are a number of other courses of action that could be explored. But as these have significant drawbacks, this is going to put further pressure on this action to be taken in the following year. An example of an additional course of action would be to classify loot boxes as gambling and then imply age restrictions on their use. This could provide governments with the revenues from the tax levied on the gambling from the loot box transactions. Just as a reference, we do forecast that spend over loot box will equal 47 billion by 2022. However, we must note at this point that we have not considered any implementation of any laws banning their use in the future. So why 2019? Well, given the time and the cost that will be required as an investment, especially when you consider the implying age restrictions, the cost and the time involved with doing that, we believe that the short-term outcome has to be a ban on legislation that bans their use entirely. It is worth noting that given the current popularity of using these loot boxes as a monetization strategy, a number of developers will be looking into implementing the strategy in the future. However, the use of loot boxes and their ban are going to encourage a number of publishers using and considering using in the future loot boxes to innovate their practices. So this will result in the revenues from these loot boxes being exempt from tax laws or legislative bans. Therefore, in 2019, any legislative bans on the use of loot boxes must be carefully considered to ensure that it covers all forms of loot boxes. And I'll now move you on to my colleague Nitin.
All right, thanks, Sam. So at number 8, we have blockchain moving into the food chain. Now, blockchain provides a tamper-proof way of tracking the source of foods in this context, and the indelible nature of the blockchain record linked to technologies such as RFID for automated tracking of food pallets and items means that food can be tracked and linked easily from place to place. The blockchain record is intended to provide a single electronic point of reference for the whole food supply. I mean, from farm to processing to stores. The irrevocable process tied to automation can provide huge cost savings for the food tracking process, as well as making the food audit trail both digital and robust. We believe that 2019 will be the year this technology begins its worldwide rollout, tracking around 150 million US dollars worth of food by the end of the year. As the chart to the right shows, this is then predicted to exceed 2 billion by 2021. We've also seen several pilot projects being carried out and brought to satisfactory completion by a wide range of platform providers throughout 2018. And 2019, we believe that we will see the first deployment of these technologies at full commercial scale and used for producers. We also expect solutions from the likes of IBM and Alibaba to be used next year, as well as dialing up of deployments from IP Australia and the UK's Food Standards Agency. Now, what is the opportunity here, or what will the implementation of blockchain bring we believe that the implementation of blockchain in the food chain will bring huge benefits to food producers, who can then track food incidents and potentially respond as they happen, rather than having to comb through manual records after an event has already taken place. So this will, in essence, move food contamination events from containment and post-outbreak evaluation to prevention. This will also allow food delivery across the supply chain to be optimized, and that will directly give food providers a more concrete records of where food was sent, where the food was sold, and this will then enable food waste to be minimized. Now, for the retailers, the instantly accessible records mean that evaluating use-by dates becomes much more precise and simpler, and once again improving the food safety as a result. And finally, for regulators and government authorities, it provides tamper-proof records that enable tracking and tracing of contaminated food, so that appropriate actions can be taken to respond to any contamination outbreaks. Now, given the players involved in these initial trials, we expect the biggest initial success of this technology next year to be in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. In time, we also expect these technologies to integrate with customer-facing apps, enabling scan and go technologies to supply food provenance information at the point of food selection, which will then help consumers to be much more informed in a better way about their food selection. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Nitin. Now we move on to our seventh prediction for 2019. Automotive OEMs to disrupt established business models. Telematics services are fast becoming ubiquitous in all new models of vehicles. This owes to both automotive OEM efforts in its inclusion, and in some regions legislation mandating the inclusion of the technology itself. Additionally, as the development of autonomous systems progresses, 2019 will be the year in which automotive OEMs begin to explore new monetization models that gain revenue beyond the initial sale of the vehicle. Additionally, given that 5G network launches are anticipated to happen in 2019, the capabilities of these vehicles and thus the data that they generate, it will increase further. 5G will enable new services such as vehicle to everything and so on. Juniper anticipates that the growth of this data, therefore, is anticipated to grow 700% over the next 5 years, driven both by the increase in the number of vehicles that have access to these connected car services and the average data used per service. However, the challenge of monetizing this data remains for the automotive OEMs, and this is a challenge that will surely be considered in 2019 given the impending launches and new services that are coming to the fore. In turn, we can expect these new business models to include new solutions that leverage subscription models for new services. Whilst we can exclude safety features such as a vehicle-to-vehicle that provide safety for the driver itself from any subscription, there are a number of consumer-oriented services that can be offered to the driver through the dashboard infotainment screen. In addition, offering subscriptions are going to prepare OEMs for monetization of autonomous vehicles, and it will lessen the dependence that the OEMs have on the established vehicle ownership model. We anticipate the rise of smart mobility services are going to continue to have an impact on how these OEMs plan future services, with focus shifting to playing a role in smart mobility solutions in the future. So, who is going to benefit? So in order to capitalize on this shift in the market, OEMs will need to begin to explore the innovative monetization strategies that are going to generate the OEMs new revenue streams over the lifetime of their vehicle. So ride sharing and ride sourcing schemes are already well established now. However, the rising usage of mobility as a service, they're going to provide automotive OEMs with an opportunity to leverage their experience in the automotive sector to provide new solutions that require subscriptions for use of public vehicles and public transport. So the key beneficiaries of this shift will be the automotive OEMs. and through capitalising on early mover advantage into the space, will position themselves well for future rollouts of services. So in 2019, the vehicle owner will also benefit. In order to increase the proposition of any new subscription models, automotive OEMs will need to offer access to third parties to accelerate the development of in-vehicle content. And we believe that 2019 will be the year in which serious investment into this new model begins. As mentioned before, 5G network will launch in 2019 and will enable OEMs to increase the efficiency of services. And now over-the-air updates, providing the necessary content and updating to fresh content through large file updates in order to keep the value proposition fresh for the user. Therefore, we feel that new business models will be tested across the vehicles in 2019 to test their viability as the market begins to move. And they will also be looking to test the subscription models with their existing customers for future ride-sharing and smart mobility solutions, a model that we believe is likely to become prevalent, especially as fully autonomous vehicles, the progression of their development continues. In turn, this is going to build up the trust that the automotive OEMs have with their customers, and allow them to more seamlessly launch mobility services in the future, especially those that require subscriptions. We believe that the OEMs, in order to be successful, must begin forming partnerships with other providers in the space, notably with public service providers. And an alternative to this will be the acquisitions. And throughout 2019, we anticipate a number of automotive OEMs will invest heavily in other transport solutions in order to gain that early mover advantage. If you'd like a bit more information, please feel free to click the link in the bottom left. And that moves us on to our sixth tech trend prediction of 2019. Voice assistants to become a service-led market. Following on from the battle of the voice assistants we saw last year, we have voice assistants becoming a service-led market in the number 6. The key opportunity here is for voice assistant providers and their partners to use the platforms they have already established to deliver a range of new digital services. This follows the somewhat lackluster uptake of voice commerce services and provide a firmer basis for the monetization of a rapidly growing platform. So Juniper expects 93 million smart speakers to be in use by the end of 2019. Again, providing a large base, addressable user base for the use of these products. On a global scale, we expect these to be in 9% of households. However, in some developed markets, this could be upwards of 40%. Whilst these devices have been rapidly adopted, they've not become the payment and commerce gateways that some had hoped for. Instead, we expect vendors to turn to services as a means of monetizing the platforms to further differentiate between voice assistant ecosystems, thus locking users into hardware. Obviously, the biggest name in the market so far has been Amazon. And following the recent explosion in Echo devices, we expect the company to further differentiate between Echo, the device range, and Alexa, the voice assistant. This means that their own version of the voice system will become more appealing, forcing other manufacturers to compete by offering hardware-linked services in other areas, such as premium music subscription and other services. So, who will benefit? We expect software providers to benefit the most from this. Speaker hardware vendors will seek out premium deals to drive hardware sales, allowing the software providers to upsell existing users more easily. We also expect Amazon's hardware sales to increase further, as the difference between Echo and Alexa becomes more apparent. That will in turn drive up sales throughout the year in 2019. So, as a result, we expect more granular speaker-based services to be offered, both by software providers and the hardware vendors of the speakers themselves. So gating of content in this way will increase the ecosystem lock-in and encourage further spending over smart speakers themselves. I'll now hand you over to my colleague Nitin.
All right, thank you, Sam. Interesting one for our listeners. We do have a couple of great reports on voice assistants and smart audio devices available to access on our website. This analyzes the future of voice commerce and voice assistants. So please do check them out. Links are provided here. Let's move on to number 5. So that's robotic process automation ramps up. Now, RPA, or robotic process automation, has for many years been used to automate very simple, repetitive business tasks. Now, because of the advances in machine learning algorithm modeling, RPA software systems can be trained to automate a wider set of tasks than ever before. So this effectively enables a workforce of software agents to manage dynamic data inputs. These automated tasks are often repetitive and mundane, and however, the introduction of these software, robotics or AI in RPA, will enable a number of firms to automate these processes in 2019. Now, the previous processes used to automate a task involves creating APIs for third parties that can enable the creation of physical actions to execute. In contrast, RPA systems will leverage the application's GUI or graphics user interface to observe first and then mimic the process through robotics. This level of automation can deliver a new degree of efficiency as tasks that were typically time-consuming and, as mentioned earlier, repetitive, which could thus be automated. Now, we all know that introducing RPA will indeed reduce costs, and this will also minimize any operational errors in occurring in business practices. Its biggest strength, we believe, lies in its ability to leverage existing systems rather than requiring a complete overhaul of existing infrastructure. But we anticipate that public sector to find the greatest benefit from RPA, providing time and cost-saving efficiencies that will enable public bodies to offer citizen-centric services. Now, with industries such as manufacturing and financial services investing in RPA solutions, key development focus will be towards more effective machine learning algorithms to increase automation levels, as well as machine learning as a mechanism for defending against new security vulnerabilities introduced by RPA as a result of agents' ability to access and process across multiple systems. Now, in 2019, we expect increased interest in this technology. We believe this will notably come from the finance industry. SAP recently announced their intention to push AI and cloud-based RPA systems in late 2018. They will join some of the other players, including Automation Anywhere, OpenSAN, and Blue Prism. And despite the assumption that automation of tasks will lead to job losses, that's something that's been quite widely discussed. Juniper believes that the opposite will come to hold true. Initially, this is likely to have an impact on adoption from many companies, notably those that rely on outsourcing or those companies who have decentralized organizational structures. So one of the key beneficiaries of RPA will be the employees themselves, through time savings that automation will enable, which means these employees can work on more meaningful tasks. Now, this leads us on to our second beneficiary listed here, the employer. So resources previously spent on these tasks can now be reallocated to activities that can help increase the productivity of the business. So what's our prediction? In 2019, we will see a number of service providers continuing to invest in AI-based RPA services. This will indeed release solutions that will further drive down cost of adoption. We also see increased adoption in the field of accountancy. And as the trust in RPA increases, this will then migrate to other areas of the financial ecosystem. Move on to the next one, Sam.
Thank you, Nitin. And our fourth tech trend prediction, RCS messaging to contest chatbots and OTT business platforms. So RCS has undergone a significant transformation from the previous iterations of the technology. We believe that the support of RCS is going to continue to grow, and over 19, amongst both the operators that support it and the handset vendors themselves. So at present, there are over 60 operators supporting the service, with more operators expected to announce their support in 2019. So we believe that 2019 will shape up to be a crucial time for the operators wishing to curb the migration of mobile messaging traffic to OTT messaging apps and chatbots themselves. Accessibility and management of the service for brands will be provided by communications platforms as a service providers. This leaves little to no investment needed into the infrastructure for the operators. It's a simple flat fee to the CPaaS provider. Using RCS for business messaging or application to person messaging provide new revenue streams if the technology can be implemented correctly. As a result, this is going to place increased pressure on these OTT messaging apps, their business platforms and in-app chatbots, as brands, we believe, are going to gravitate towards the superior capabilities and the increasing reach that RCS will bring over 2019. As this reach of RCS increases, so does the value proposition in its usage, especially in contacting customers, thus increasing the adoption of the services further. The value of RCS will only continue to increase. Thus, the timing of any implementations are crucial, or operators risk losing their A2P messaging traffic to other services. Obviously, this follows on from the loss of P2P traffic that operators have been witnessing to OTT players over the last few years. So we anticipate that advertising and retail will be the first sectors to truly adopt RCS messaging on a large scale. And in turn, this is going to further encourage a number of other industries to look at RCS as a communications medium. Additionally, we expect a large amount of focus on RCS at Mobile World Congress this year, notably the revenue potential that the technology is going to bring to operators, and more importantly, what role RCS will play in the wider CPaaS environment. So, who will benefit? The usage from trusted retail brands is going to foster trust amongst smartphone users in the technology. In the future, we anticipate that the introduction of AI into the app will develop conversational RCS, providing a similar to the services that we witnessed today in chatbots. However, the potential reach of RCS and the solutions provided by CPaaS providers they're going to provide a differentiation point to chatbots and the business messaging platforms that are in the ecosystem today. So as a result, we anticipate that the OTT messaging players such as WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger are going to continue to struggle to monetize their A2P traffic in the future. And from a mobile subscriber's point of view, RCS is going to provide a media-rich service that provide an interactive method of communicating with brands and advertisers, and a service that will provide a significant increase on the user experience of SMS. However, with the nascence of this new technology, the introduction of RCS needs careful considerations for launch. Otherwise, technology risks losing potential adoptees as it grows, as historically RCS is finally beginning to reach the heights that it has been touted for. Firstly, pricing mechanisms must remain as simple as possible. Adopting a price per message approach that is similar to the one adopted by SMS A2P messaging, we feel will be essential in minimizing the confusion amongst potential brands that want to use the service. And secondly, fall back onto established protocols, namely SMS, must be ensured by the CPaaS providers. In the launches of RCS, the ability to ensure that a message is delivered regardless of format will be the priority for any potential adoptee of RCS. And the momentum for RCS has steadily been building from all stakeholders over the previous years. Mobile messaging market is now perfectly poised for RCS to make a significant impact in 2019 in the business messaging space. I'll now hand back over to my colleague Nitin.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, so now we've got the top 3 left to do, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, do drop them into the chat box and we will pick them up for our Q&A session later on. Number 3, banking as a service economy emerges. Now, at number 3, we expect the emergence of banking as a service, or BaaS, to be a key driving force in the world of finance in 2019. With PSD2 applicable as of January 2018, we expect 2019 to be the year that more products based on the regulations, open API requirements, to have a significant effect on the market. And I think in particular, this will enable new types of banking services to be offered by new players who can handle the cross-platform requirements for banks unfamiliar with the technological requirements. The main opportunity here is for new technology-focused players to offer services across a wide range of new platforms. And with compliance established in 2018, we think that 2019 will see banks and technology players look beyond just compliance, just mere compliance, and build on the opportunities the directive presents. Now, the newer fintech startups stand to be the biggest beneficiaries of this development. As they can simply provide white label services to a wide variety of financial institutions wanting to offer more services to their customers. So in time, this will extend to PaaS and SaaS providers more generally as financial transactions become just another form of secure data to transact through the cloud. So as a result, we've seen, for example, Oracle amongst one of the early movers in the space, extending their cloud expertise into a new sector. This will also benefit banks, undoubtedly, and as it simply gives them more platforms through which to engage with their customers. The more types of product will give them a larger presence, and there's more ways to make their products more sticky to customers. Now, the open data requirements of PSD2 also means that consumers should benefit from increased competition as dedicated banking as a service players emerge to serve customers in the way that Monzo and other fintech companies have become prominent. Now, we expect that while this movement has begun in Europe, later in 2019, other banking players across the world will bring out banking as a service applications and products to their customers. And this will not be mandated, but a drive to increase competitive differentiation, and with PSD2 as a de facto framework, a global banking as a service market will form, although the banks themselves will remain largely national. Now, in tandem with this, we also expect IoT-based services to make an appearance in 2019. We expect several companies explicitly targeting this space. It's happened already, and it will become a key competitive benefit for several banking as a service players. Now over to Elson, who will reveal the top 2 trends for 2019.
Yes, thank you, Nitin. And for our tech prediction trend number 2, we believe AI will enhance edge computing power in IoT systems. So why do we believe this? Well, over the past 12 to 18 months, the concept of edge computing to power IoT applications, devices, and systems has surfaced and become a significant trend in the digital industry. We're seeing competitive efforts from traditional IT suppliers exerting huge effort to make this trend realized. So what has led to this combination between edge computing power and IoT? Well, IT and technology providers, given their limitations, have had to decide how much processing power and computing resources to allocate from the cloud layer to the edge layer, particularly for applications that are highly central processing unit concentrated. These providers are aiming to work alongside many sectors, industries, and organizations to obtain insightful analysis of specific filtered data and information via the use of machine learning and edge computing within IoT. The collation of these significant amounts and types of intelligent data through devices such as smart sensors, actuators, servers, and so forth for further analysis by edge and cloud analytics engines installs confidence in decision makers to make the right moves. Let's look at an example. The aviation industry, for example, realizes the power of the edge element and IoT together. By measuring and monitoring an aircraft's performance, significant reductions in fuel and operational expenses and customer churn can be achieved. In 2017, SAS and Cisco also announced the birth of their IoT analytics platform, developed to enable analytics on devices at the edge of the network. Many industries see value in capturing and analyzing data on the go or in motion rather than analyze data that has been stored or that is static. We've also seen some key players such as Huawei and Google making efforts in the last couple of years to establish specific products to strengthen and enhance their IoT computing edge capabilities. In summary, the combination of machine learning, AI, and edge within IoT systems allows IT and technology providers to increase the running efficiency of their IoT operations through the gathering of this intelligence from local data, particularly in locations where cloud connectivity is inconsistent. Secondly, as highlighted earlier, the delivery of real-time fast predictions for critical IoT applications can be produced through machine learning processes that gather and process this data from devices and sensors. And lastly, security being a very key issue too, can be increased of all types of sensors collected from data via edge, with all privacy, security, and compliance risks of these data fully eliminated. So what's next? Well, Juniper believes that the total number of connected IoT sensors and devices will exceed 50 billion by 2022, up from an estimated 21 billion in 2018. This growth, equivalent to 140% over the next 4 years, will be driven by edge computing services, increasing both deployment scalability and security. Incorporating, in summary, powerful AI at the edge enables faster processing and analysis of IoT applications and delivers improved data filtering, automation, and workload distribution. We expect cloud corporates to potentially lead this space, given their strong experience and background in AI. So we've had numbers 10 to 2, and here is our number one trend for 2019. And that is that we believe adversarial machine learning will become key for security and fraud prevention. So let's look at this. Let me break down the statement for a moment to walk us through some of the insightful points that we'd like to make. Well, what is adversarial machine learning? Well, it's where machine learning and computer security crosses paths in essence. It's the use of machine learning within adversarial circumstances such as spam filtering, detection of viruses, or identity recognition. In the financial industry, for example, it is not surprising that as e-commerce transactions grow year on year, so do the number of fraudulent transactions. The chart that you can see in the slide shows data from ACI worldwide, based on e-commerce growth and card not present fraud during key shopping dates, November to December. The data here underlines that fraudulent activity is actually outpacing the growth of overall e-commerce transaction. The next point I'd like to make is that machine learning algorithms do need security and do need protection. Machine learning has traditionally had its advantage in effectively delivering rapid prediction of trends, establishing robust risk management and inference. Much investment, time, and focus by organizations has been dedicated to programming and training machine learning algorithms to fulfill these functions. But if these algorithms become compromised, they will be prone to attacks from threats and viruses. The chaotic damage from the cyber attacks, if allowed to be permeated, can be dangerously resulting in the misclassification or alteration of information within them. In effect, an organization's entire system's security can be at stake. We know that cyber criminals are constantly seeking to successfully exploit weaknesses of learning algorithms of highly valued organizations. Fraudsters are responding to enhanced detection capabilities for transaction fraud and account fraud offered by fraud detection and prevention service providers. In some instances, these cyber criminals are also using machine learning algorithms to uncover weaknesses in fraud detection systems, in a type of machine learning chess match, if you like. It is here that the choice of FDP vendor becomes very important in terms of how its machine learning solution is implemented. Is it a static model that is used, or does the vendor employ an adversarial model that adapts to changing conditions? Fraudsters will have very little knowledge of the precise algorithms being used to detect fraud, and as a result, time, effort, and funding must be sourced to identify weaknesses, which then can be applied or replicated across other merchants assumed to be using similar algorithms. So what is the opportunity here for industries? Well, a number of sectors. Could be in healthcare, industrial, advertising, where huge amounts and types of sensitive data, particularly public data, must be protected, and it's a high priority, will be the key actors and drivers here. As you can see from the chart here, spending on fraud detection and prevention software in the financial sector, for example, for e-commerce transactions, including ticketing, money transfer and payments, will reach $10 billion by 2022. These sectors aforementioned recognize the value of determining and containing these susceptibilities. E.g., these could be unauthorized access points, weak security infrastructures within machine learning approaches within adversarial circumstances. These sectors will prioritize increasing their understanding of these vulnerabilities in machine learning algorithms, and we believe that they will engage with machine learning specialists to design and implement effective action steps to address these vulnerabilities. In summary, Juniper Research believes moving forward into 2019 and beyond that adversarial machine learning will be required by numerous industries to firstly identify weaknesses of machine learning algorithms during the learning identification process, enforce the protection and integrity and validity of data in these systems, action steps in response to specific threats, assess the potential damage of these threats, program algorithms to enhance their resistance to viruses, eliminate the presence of opaque black boxes, and lastly, to grant adequate time to algorithm developers to invest into breaking the efforts of cyber criminals to infect data. And now, having mentioned point number one, I would like to hand back to Nitin.
Thanks, Elson. So great. That wraps up our top 10 tech trends and predictions for 2019. But before we move to the Q&A session, let's just have a recap of the rankings, now ordered 1 to 10. So as just Elson just finished, right at the top, we discussed how adversarial machine learning will become key for security and fraud prevention, followed by how AI will enhance edge computing in IoT systems, and also the emergence of Bhas economy. Now, at number 4, we explained how RCS messaging will contest chatbots and other OTT business platforms. Following that, we discussed how RPA activities in the financial sector will witness further disruption, and how voice assistants, including the likes of Alexa, becoming a service-led market. And number 7 and 8, we discussed the connected car ecosystem, i.e. the disruptions to traditional business models and blockchain disruption in the food chain. And finally, we discussed how loot boxes will be banned across Europe and North America. We are already seeing a great deal of activity on this in the US at the moment. And lastly, how chatbots will play a central role in insurance and insurtech. Okay, so we've all received a few questions, a large number of questions. So many thanks to you for these. We've only got time for a few questions, so I'll try and get through as many as possible. If not, we will get in touch with you straight after the webinar. A few questions on RCS here. So Sam, maybe you could take this one. How will the future of RCS be affected by Apple holding out on support of the technology? That's a very good point. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it is indeed a very good point. And the lack of support from RCS from Apple mean that RCS will not be able to meet the reach of the same level of ubiquity that SMS does. RCS would then suffer a similar issue of fragmentation that plagues the OTT messaging app space now. But in the future, we do believe that Apple will have some level of support for the RCS profile that the GSMA has outlined, and it will enable brands to use RCS across a number of devices, including iOS and Android devices.
Mm-hmm. We've got a couple more questions on RCS. I might ask you one more, Sam. Mm-hmm. I've got a question from Charles asking, how will RCS be priced for brands?
It is, again, a very, very good question. In considering the nascence of RCS and how it's failed to reach the heights it has over the past few years, pricing is going to be a big consideration to offer to brands. So we believe that pricing for message at first initially will be essential to ensure that brands are comfortable in moving from SMS to using RCS. However, obviously RCS, with the investment involved, A premium over SMS is going to be expected. However, if this is too high, then you're going to discourage adoption from a technology that's still seeking to find its feet.
Yeah, makes sense. I'll keep you busy, Sam. I've got a question on loot boxes. I think it makes sense because of what's happening in the US at the minute. Outside of the way loot boxes operate, how else can games publishers make up for the shortfall in revenues owing to this, expected legislation?
One strategy that we've identified looking into it is games as a service. That is one possible avenue. Microsoft are really looking into this as a monetization model, having released their Xbox Games Pass. It's been a bold strategy, considering that Microsoft have included a number of premium titles in this subscription, including Halo and Forza. But in order for this to be successful, ensuring fresh content is going to be key to ensuring that the subscribers to the service are kept happy at regular times.
Okay, that makes sense. Elson, one for you. What use cases are there in IoT for the finance sector? And are there any issues that must be overcome by the sector to move forward?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you know, and as people have probably seen in the media, there's a large adoption of online banking, mobile banking apps, and so forth. Furthermore, we've got digitization, innovation happening in the space, really. So the financial sector is definitely aware of how IoT and banking can help to address a range of issues, minimize risks, use consumer data to understand their customers' needs, particularly in real time, in order to, for example, design appropriate services for them. So there's lots of points of where this data is collected. It could be ATMs, card readers. It could be obviously mobile apps on the smartphone. But also, I think we're seeing trends in the finance sector of how organizations can increase the scale of that, really. So, for example, monitoring businesses, for example, that banks have lent to, and using IoT sensors and networks to really determine how these businesses can pay back any loans that they have borrowed as well. Or using kind of some of this data to increase customer engagement and loyalty. For example, providing loans and investment choices based on a range of KPIs that these kind of consumers meet. As well as that, you were talking about some of the issues, really, and I think there's still some questions around IoT integration within banking. So you've got existing finance and banking operations and legacy systems. And so questions, and education needs to be kind of dispersed around, is this IoT transformation a strategic initiative? Is this transformational? Do we have enough kind of resources and manpower to embrace the benefits of IoT, to invest into it and bring it into line with our kind of legacy systems, really? So integration is one aspect of that. Of course, as we've been mentioning throughout this whole webinar, fraud prevention and security is also very key as well, because of the cyber attacks, and really, if that's permeated through, then there is a lack of confidence there. We're already seeing people or organizations like HSBC using AI or experimenting with AI-powered anti-fraud systems. Citigroup as well is another key player that's kind of testing eye scanning technology at ATMs to authenticate transactions. And I think also on a regional scale, just to point out a couple of examples, we're seeing in the Middle East, particularly Qatar, focusing on this collaborative aspect. So of course in IoT, there's this element of collaboration and partnerships. And so we're seeing financial regulators, authorities, the banking sector really kind of come together really and to really experiment on how they can contain risk and adhere to specific security standards as well. The same thing's happening in Beijing as well, who've announced their promotion of financial technology development plan, I think for 2018 to 2022, and they've stated in that they're open to cloud and to cloud computing and blockchain to help reduce effective regulation and risk control.
And we are also seeing some of the so-called challenger neobanks partnering with some of the IoT vendors. For example, Monzo is partnering with If This Then That to establish some IoT-based functions, and we do see several banks adopting functions aimed at voice assistance. So I think it's fair to say that we ultimately expect products to be able to be sold through IoT platforms to consumers in their homes, but I guess this will take some time for automated services to fully satisfy all the know your customer requirements and so on.
That's right. Okay.
The Thanks, Elson. Thanks for that.
No worries.
So there are a few more questions that we have received today, quite a few on voice assistant platforms. We will be in touch with you straight after this webinar via email. That brings us to the end of our top 10 tech predictions for 2019 webinar. I hope you have found this very insightful. We will make a recording of this webinar available on our YouTube channels and also on our website, following which we will publish a more in-depth white paper and analyzing and breaking down these trends a bit more. So once again, please download the related reports from our website, and if you need any further assistance, you can contact us directly on the contact details provided here. Once again, thank you all for joining, and it is goodbye for now.